Welcome back, everybody. Today we are going to find out why Germany will lose the 2030s. Yeah, Germany is going downhill. Stagnation, stagflation, no, inflation plus stagnation. But let's see.
Stands at a crossroads. It boasts the world's fourth largest economy and is the de facto leader of the Eurozone.
De facto.
It's also a global leader in chemicals, automotive, financial services, and engineering.
But that all is changing.
Consistently running a trade surplus, exporting more than it imports.
That's true. We are number one, how do you call that? Exporting more than you import, you know?
And
Whatever.
Germany has a better debt to GDP ratio than the United States, Japan, the UK, and India. However, the country also faces some of the gravest headwinds of any modern economy.
Guys, this is a little bit
Over
too
the last
slow.
2 decades, the Germans have
Gotta
hitched
speed this
their
up.
cart to China, the European Union, and Russia. Today, those look like 3 of the worst partners to be reliant upon. In this video, we'll break down the trouble that Germany faces
Diverse
in the coming
partners.
years, including a lack of energy independence, a shrinking pool of demand for its products, and
What?
a sharp demographic cliff.
No. I'm leaving Germany
Germany's
anyway.
economy is huge, and they make important stuff that people need, like cars, chemicals, and pharmaceuticals. Nearly 1/3 of all Germans are employed in blue-collar industrial sectors like manufacturing, construction, and mining. Compare that to their neighbors in France, where just 22% of French citizens work in those same blue-collar industrial sectors. And I need to repeat that they are world-class in a number of these industries. One of the most interesting is turning energy into chemicals. The modern chemical industry was effectively started in Germany.
Yeah, if you are ever here and you're interested in this kind of stuff, go visit the BASF city near Frankfurt. You can like have tours there. It's fucking huge. It's a massive city within a city just to produce chemicals.
The largest chemical company in the world, BASF, is based
That's-
in Germany.
that's
and
what
did
I'm talking about.
$92 billion in revenue in 2022. BASF alone uses about as much energy as Costa Rica, and its flagship campus is effectively an entire city within Ludwigshafen, Germany.
I was just telling you. So school classes usually go there and have a run around. It's pretty impressive.
It produces plastics, polyurethanes, and other chemicals that go into German automobiles, Adidas apparel, and Bayer pharmaceuticals. But the folks who buy those German products largely reside outside of Germany. In economics, this is called a production-led economy. German corporations are some of the most efficient, skilled, and well-organized on the planet.
Yeah,
As a
because we
result,
don't have
they
any
produce a far
resources.
greater supply of these goods than the German population actually needs. This makes them highly reliant on their ability to export. Here's a striking example. German cars are shipped all over the world. 80% of BMWs, Audis, Volkswagens, Porsches, and Mercedes are purchased in other countries. Compare this to the United States, which
What
is...
did you say? How many percent?
Here's a striking example. German cars are shipped all over the world. 80%
80%. Jesus, that's a lot.
population and a high GDP per capita. In America, only 12% of Chevys, Fords, Cadillacs, and Chryslers are sold outside the US.
Yeah, because they're
This
not
is
good
just one
cars.
of many industries powering the German economy that relies upon healthy markets with an appetite for their goods. The other reason that Germany's economy is production-led is their demographics. Germany is old, with a median age of 44. Now that's not quite Japan, but it's worse than China, Russia,
Of course,
the
because
United
we're not
States,
making any
Sweden,
children.
and basically every
Go
other
make more
major
children,
power on
guys.
the European continent.
We have a
Young
population
families buy the
crisis.
most stuff. Old people consume less and save more. And past a certain age, old
I'm not gonna beat that old person, I am telling you. I'm gonna consume the shit out of what I have.
people stop making new people. Additionally, this causes issues with labor costs. Data from the Federal Statistical Office indicates that by 2030, 30% of the German population will be over the age of 65, potentially leading to a labor shortage
Feels already like
and
that,
increased
must be
pension
honest.
costs. The labor force participation rate is
Ooh.
projected to decline
Did you see
from
that sausage?
78% to 73% by 2030, necessitating strategies to integrate more women and migrants into the workforce or increase the retirement age.
Or build more robots like the Japanese are doing.
In a market where the supply of
Why is
labor
nobody
goes
talking
down,
about that?
costs will inevitably go up. And higher labor costs mean that German products get more expensive, which will also hurt their ability to export them. Inevitably, Germany's population will shrink in the coming decades. The degree to
I
which
don't
that
think it
occurs
will.
is really just a
Too much immigration going on. It's not going to shrink.
factor of how open or closed they are to immigration. And regardless, they're going to need to be able to export. And for the last decade, the most important market for German goods has been
Was
China.
China won't need us much longer.
China first surpassed the United States as Germany's leading export destination in 2016 and has been the top market for German exports for the last 7 years. Since then, the trade between the two countries has continued to grow, reaching a record high of 299 billion euro in 2022.
That's a lot.
Over 30% of German car exports are destined for
Wow,
China.
30%?
But the unparalleled Chinese growth of the 2000s may be reaching a tipping point.
They've got a real estate crisis, a banking crisis, a local government debt crisis that exceeds $13 trillion. And they've got a youth unemployment crisis, which they stopped reporting as soon as the numbers got bad. And here we are seeing their premier at Davos saying they grew GDP at 5.3%. And no one believes that.
Are you worried about the debt?
I believe that. I mean, they invested so much in other countries, in Africa and Asia. There's for sure money coming in from there somehow.
Pile in China?
We have to be. We all have to be worried about it. Chinese apartment prices are the most, probably after treasury bonds, most important asset class in the world.
And since BRICS is launching soon and the yuan is used for more trade, especially oil, that gives more strength to China. So I think people are worried too much. Of course, there's going to be a banking crisis and a housing crisis, but
And
it's
they
all
are
temporary.
declining. We are seeing a real estate problem in China.
This is not a video where I break down the Chinese economy, but I can summarize one of the problems quite simply. The Chinese population is shrinking, and it's doing so at a faster rate than Germany's. We already know that's one of Germany's biggest problems at home, but being their primary export destination, it not only means that demand is shrinking, but that they could face some real economic turmoil. The Chinese economic model, which fueled decades of unprecedented growth, is showing signs of strain. The real estate sector, once a critical engine of growth, is now a source of instability, with over-leveraged companies and a bubble that threatens to burst. This slowdown could lead to reduced demand for the luxury goods and industrial products, directly impacting Germany's exports.
Oh
The
no.
geopolitical landscape further complicates this relationship. Tensions between China and the West have escalated, with trade wars and technology restrictions creating an uncertain environment for global trade. Germany finds itself caught in the crossfire. The need to navigate these tensions while maintaining access to the Chinese market presents a strategic dilemma for German policymakers and business leaders.
It seems like Germany is always in a dilemma. Also with Russia, when they started the war, and actually Russia was one of the biggest trade partners to Germany, and that's all gone now. So
In response,
Always
Germany
dilemma.
is trying to diversify its export markets and reduce its dependence on China. But while new markets like Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America are younger, they have far less buying power than the world's number 2 economy. This ultimately leaves German leaders with few options for maintaining, let alone growing, their economic fortunes.
So, only 20 years ago, Germany got almost a third of its electricity from nuclear power. If Germany had kept that nuclear power, we'd be having a very different discussion now. There might not even be a Ukraine war.
German manufacturing requires a lot of energy. These aren't white-collar jobs where you need enough power to keep the lights on in an office and run a coffee machine. The Germans are doing intensive industrial production. When Gerhard Schroeder became Chancellor of Germany in 1998, he came with a plan to reform Germany's economy, remix its energy profile, and pivot foreign policy. Under Schroeder's chancellorship, Germany embarked on the Nord Stream project, a direct gas pipeline from
yeah,
Russia
Schroeder is
to
the
Germany
biggest
through
Russia
the
fan
Baltic Sea,
ever.
bypassing traditional transit countries.
Still.
Russian natural gas would be cheaper than other sources, while also being relatively cleaner than the coal that is abundant in Germany. Environmentalists were becoming more vocal in Germany at the turn of the century. Now there's reasons to question, was this a completely organic phenomenon, or was it an analog version of the covert influence operations that Russia has since become famous for? In the intervening decades, it has become increasingly clear that this is a pillar of Russian foreign affairs strategy. It's also odd that the German environmentalist movement isn't particularly logical. In addition to advocating for renewable energy like wind and solar power, there was also a push to decommission nuclear power plants across the country. In 1999, nuclear energy in Germany constituted a significant portion of the country's energy mix. At that time, Germany had more than 20 reactors
Oh
in
wow.
operation,
I didn't know it's
producing
so many.
23 gigawatts of nuclear
I knew we
capacity.
had some.
Nuclear power generation was
23?
accounting for 30% of Germany's electric needs while producing 0 carbon emissions. But the German public was caught up in the idea that it was dangerous. This grew with public accidents at 3 Mile Island in 1979.
Well, it was mostly because of Chernobyl, which kind of made half of Europe a bit radioactive. That's why they changed their mind about it. The stupid thing is, they shut it down too fast before they could build up the sustainable energy, you know? So now Germany is in this weird limbo phase. They should have kept it running 10 more years or
Chernobyl
something.
in 1986 and Fukushima in 2011. But in reality, this is like how airplane crashes get more news coverage than car accidents. Statistically, you're more likely to be in a car crash and killed by it than you are to be hurt in an airplane. Yet, nearly everyone gets into a motor vehicle every day without any anxiety. Yet, the rare airplane issue is headline-grabbing stuff and leads to an outsized public psychosis. In April of 2023, the last remaining nuclear plants in Germany were permanently shut down. But because wind is intermittent and Germany isn't particularly sunny, the primary source...
Yes, sun is not reliable. It's like 2 months of summer here, and then even then it's raining half the summer. It's
base power for the
forget
German
solar
grid
here.
has returned to coal. So, why would Schroeder do this? A naive mind might think, well, he was just doing his best to try to clean up the grid. But his career after politics suggests he had some other influences. The fact that Vladimir Putin was sitting on the other end of the Nord Stream pipeline didn't bother Schroeder. Just weeks before he was voted out of office, his government guaranteed $1 billion towards the Nord Stream project. Days after
I can't come over the fact that Schröder is looking so happy in every single shot. Is like, what's going on with him?
$1 billion towards the Nord Stream project.
What? Look at his face. He's so happy. Why?
Days after leaving the government, he became the CEO of Nord Stream AG, the company responsible for the pipeline's operation.
What?
Then,
He became
chair of the
CEO?
board of Russia's largest oil producer, Rosneft.
I didn't even know
When he
that.
joined Rosneft's board, the oil firm was under sanctions by the US
That's why he was so happy, probably.
for Putin's actions in Crimea. In 2022, 20 days before Putin invaded Ukraine, he joined the board of Gazprom, Russia's state-controlled gas giant. Since then, Russian oil and gas has again come under sanctions. Nord Stream 1 and 2 have been sabotaged, and German energy prices have more than doubled. And remember BASF?
I'm still crying because of the energy prices. We're literally paying more than double, like triple.
Their main complex
It's
in Germany
ridiculous.
consumes as much natural gas as the nation of Switzerland. In 2022, the company's European energy bill increased by $2.9 billion over the year before. Simultaneously, the slowdown in China partially accounted for their revenue in 2023 dropping to $77 billion, a 19% decline from 2022. It has had to shut down plants and reduce capacity across its portfolio due to rising input costs. There's no clear pathway to relief anytime soon. Putin seems far from giving up in Ukraine, and those nuclear plants don't just turn back on. All of this put additional stress on a German economy that was already under severe pressure. But this doesn't just affect Germany. It affects all of Europe. As Germany goes, so goes the European Union. As the EU's largest economy, it has often taken the lead in navigating the bloc through financial crises, exemplified by its central role in bailouts for Greece, Ireland, Portugal, and Cyprus during the Eurozone crisis. These efforts show Germany's commitment to the EU's stability. But they don't just do this from a sense of charity. German leaders recognize that its own economic fortunes are deeply intertwined with the health of the Union. Economic hardship in the EU destabilizes the euro, the currency that underpins Germany's trading within the bloc. The EU's single market is a cornerstone of Germany's export-led growth model, allowing for the seamless flow of goods, services, and capital across member states. The dissolution of this integrated market would erect trade barriers, introduce regulatory and currency complexities, and fragment the economic landscape.
Yeah, just
For
ask
Germany-
the UK how they're struggling with exports now to the European Union.
This would mean a significant disruption to its export pathways, potentially leading to reduced market access and increased costs for German products abroad. A return to national currencies would introduce exchange rate volatility, further complicating trade for German businesses. We've already seen this with Brexit, which imposed costs on both the UK and its trading partners like Germany.
It's not
But
going
if
good
the
over
bloc
there.
were to stay together for the next few decades, it would still be facing severe headwinds. Italy is the third largest economy in the EU, yet has a nearly 150% debt to GDP ratio and high unemployment rates. Greece remains anemic, and Spain's unemployment is north of 11%. Inflation in Eastern Europe is ridiculous. Hungary, Latvia, and Lithuania are all north of 20%. And right now, the European
What? I didn't even
Union
know.
is the least
20.
bad of Germany's 3 essential partnerships. But I'd argue that the group retains the most explosive tail risk of the 3. Europe's half-century of relative peace is an extreme historical outlier. EU membership, paired with NATO, has created a degree of alignment that has neutered the historic rivalries that many of these countries have baked into their cultures. Should the EU dissolve, there would be one less barrier between Germany and the rivalries of its past. Germany's in trouble, and there is no clear pathway to turning things around. To counter their energy insecurity and aging demographics, they could work to reactivate their nuclear plants and open themselves to immigration. But both of those moves would require overcoming substantial opposition from constituencies
What
inside
is
the
he
country.
talking about? The immigration is already happening. It's been happening for 10 years or more.
Smart enough to devise any other solutions, but I'm also not dumb enough to count out the brilliance of the German people. Regardless, it will be extremely interesting to watch them navigate the next decade. If you enjoyed this video, check out our video on how Bayern Munich became one of the top.
Okay, we don't care about football. Maybe you do. I don't. Anyway, this was a very informative and well done video. Good job, Aaron Watson. If you enjoyed this, go subscribe to him. And yeah, I think he covered all the things that Germany will face in the next 10 years. And I must agree, it's not looking too rosy. Like politicians in general in Europe, I guess, are too out of touch with normal human life. And they're making policies that often make no sense at all. And yeah, it's gonna be tough. Probably still gonna be the leader in the European Union because they have the most people and the most purchasing power, and etc. Asia is gonna be the new superpower in the world. So, and if you wanna make a lot of money and have less bureaucracy, you should move to Asia somewhere. Yeah, the opportunities are greater there. Unfortunately for us, good for them. And with that said, see you in the next video.